Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody, peoplings, earthlings everywhere. Hope you're all having a good day. It is still raining here in Spain. It actually does this every year. Floods. I think the reason that it's all hit the headlines at the moment, and it is awful, a lot of people have died, is because TikTok and social media is around. But trust me, this happens a lot. But in this area, well, we're on a boat, so we're not going to flood, that hopefully. But yeah, they're having it really bad in certain areas, including Malaga and other areas of Spain. It's not just Valencia. Right, today what I wanted to talk about is how you would go about asking a member of the royal family to attend your event. And I actually found out I should already have known a lot of this. But I found out quite a lot this morning about this, and it got me thinking about people that I knew when I was little who worked with my mum and dad, and, you know, looking them up on their wiki pages and finding out, what year was it that they died? And, oh, they died in 2005. Oh, right, okay. I mean, they weren't people I was particularly close to. They were people that were really friendly with my mum and dad and worked with my mum and dad. So I thought I would go into the Lord Lieutenant position. If you want a member of the royal family to come and, I don't know, visit a hospital, support a charity, come and celebrate the anniversary of something like that, then your best bet is to write to your local Lord Lieutenant. Now, I don't know about most counties if they just have one, but the county of Sussex, which is where I am from, has two. East and West Sussex. Lewis is a strange county. I don't know if other counties are like this and they're split into two. But the reason I know a little bit about this is my dad was the under-sheriff of Sussex, the whole of Sussex. And that's a paid job, usually held by a solicitor. My dad was the under-sheriff because he was the senior partner of Lewis, Holman and Lawrence, which had the shrievalty, which is the name of the contract, to be the under-sheriff. They'd had that for a couple of 100 years. When he retired, it all fell apart. The firm, well, it was sold off. It kind of merged with another firm, and I'm not sure who is the under-sheriff of Sussex these days. I looked it up this morning. I think it's somebody in Ditchling, but I'm not sure about that. Anyway, so Sussex has one under-sheriff, two high sheriffs. High sheriffs, it's like an honorary position, unpaid, and two Lord Lieutenants. A Lord Lieutenant is basically the monarch. They represent the monarch. They deputise for the monarch. So when they attend an event, it is the monarch attending. Now, I knew a few Lord Lieutenants because both my parents worked with them. Well, I knew one, his wife, really, really well, because she taught me cookery at St Mary's Hall. So you would write to the Lord Lieutenant and they would help you to find out which member of the royal family would be the most appropriate to attend your event. And of course, there's no charge at all. The royal family, the monarchy, it's a public service, which sort of makes Meghan's remarks about, I can't believe we're not being paid for this, you know. Anyway, forget those two. Quite a few of you have asked me, where do I think Harry is? I've no idea. Keeping his head down. I don't believe any of these puff pieces about he's doing this, he's doing that, he's going here, he's going there. And I don't think she knows where he is. So, I've no idea. He's doing the best thing, in my opinion, just keeping his head down. Right, so, yeah, then it got me thinking, and some memories came back. And I remembered something that I had been sworn never to tell anybody. And I'm going to tell you guys. Because, well, basically everybody's dead now, so it doesn't matter, does it? And I don't think that the people involved would actually mind me telling you. I don't think our late Majesty would mind. I don't think Lady Abergavenny would mind. And I'm pretty certain my mum and dad wouldn't mind. So I'll tell you all that in a minute. And actually, I think it's quite impressive. It's just back in the day, in the 80s, they didn't want anybody to know what Queen Elizabeth II got up to on her evenings off for fun. Anyway, we'll come to that. So I didn't know this part. I mean, when I grew up, there were certain titles and names that I just heard all the time because my parents worked with both of them. And the title Lord Lieutenant and High Sheriff, they came up all the time. All the time. There was always an event, a dinner. And when I was about 15, I sort of said to my dad, what is a Lord Lieutenant? And he said, well, it's the monarch, you know, that people have to curtsy and bow, and it's representing the Queen. And certain names became familiar. Now, in West Sussex, I was never as familiar with these names, although I do remember my father referencing Lavinia. The title Lord Lieutenant was created on my 4th birthday, 1st of April 1974. Both for East and West Sussex. And I assume all the other Lord Lieutenancies were created the same day. Under my dad's tenure, the first one would have been the 16th Duke of Norfolk. This is for West Sussex. The second, Lavinia, Duchess of Norfolk. And the last one that he would have been involved with was the 10th Duke of Richmond. I don't really remember him talking about the Duke of Richmond very much. I do recall him mentioning Lavinia once or twice, I seem to recall. But the ones that they really spoke about a lot were the East Sussex Lord Lieutenants. The first Lord Lieutenant of East Sussex was Lord Abergavenny. My mum and dad were big friends with Lord and Lady Abergavenny. And Lady Abergavenny was a lady of the bedchamber of Our Late Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. Now, the Abergavennys were just lovely. I got caught smoking at private school, and oh my God, you would have thought I'd murdered somebody. The fuss they made. And, my parents were mortified. And my mum said to me, you know, I told Lady Abergavenny about this, and she said, oh, Joan, it's not a big deal. You know how people are. And she said, I'll tell you what, if Fiona comes to any event with me, we'll sneak out the back for a fag together. So they were just lovely people. Now, Lady Abergavenny told my parents that Our Late Majesty was an extremely talented mimic. Extremely talented. And that she did a really rather mean Margaret Thatcher. Now, because my mother was a Tory politician and Mrs T was the Prime Minister at the time, they told me this, and you know, we'd have these sort of private jokes where we'd laugh about stuff, but I was sworn to secrecy. I must never tell anybody that Joan Mont or Neville Mont found it amusing, let alone Lord and Lady Abergavenny found it funny that Our Late Majesty was doing exceptionally funny impersonations of Mrs T. But yeah, and Lady Abergavenny said that the Queen was, I mean, I don't know if she was being maybe a little sycophantic and bigging her up a bit, but she really said that the late Queen was, she could mimic anybody. Can you imagine her doing Meghan? Ooh, I wonder. So that was the little tidbit. But they're all dead now, so I don't think there's any harm in it. And I think people do know that I've heard other people say this about Our Late Majesty, so I think it's fairly common knowledge. It was just that was a bit of first-hand, and I'd completely forgotten actually until today. That's how I kept the secret. I'm terrible at keeping secrets normally. So yeah, this Lord Lieutenant appointment. Oh, and I didn't know this. I had no idea that Lord Abergavenny was also the Earl of Lewis. I didn't even know Lewis had an Earl. I lived in Lewis for 20 years. I was born I was born in Brighton, but from the day I was born, I lived in Lewis for the first 20 years of my life. I never ever knew Lewis had an Earl. Fancy that. And he was it. So there you go. I mean, and the other thing is you should really give loads and loads of notice, at least a year's notice, to have a successful chance, because there aren't actually that many members of the royal family that are working and go and do engagements, so they're extremely busy. Of course, Princess Anne does as many engagements as she possibly can, but the others work hard too. So, you know, maybe give 2 years' notice. So when I have seen people like Christopher Boozy or these sugars or Omid Scobie sort of going, or just idiot journalists go, oh, it's just a bit of ribbon cutting, there's actually a lot of preparation and planning. And each member of the royal family are painfully aware that they have been invited. that the people who have invited them will be wearing their best, they will be full of pride, I've said this before, and that the member of the royal family is going to please them, to help them. Not for members of the public to doff their caps and curtsy and bow and grovel to a member of the royal family. Quite the other way around. That's what's just, well, Omid Scobie, I mean, whatever happened to him? Gone, isn't he? I'm not really interested in Meghan and Harry at the moment. I await an official announcement of separation or divorce. All this will they, won't they, are they, aren't they? We can all see he's been miserable as sin. For the last, 5-6 years this nightmare's been going on. I can tell you now, if Princess Diana had been alive, that woman Markle wouldn't have got within an inch of Harry. Nowhere near. Well, I sometimes wonder if when Harry asked for permission to marry this banshee, that perhaps our late Majesty, fond as she was of him, looked at him and thought, everything you've ever wanted, Harry, we've given in. You're a spoilt little brat. And I think this might be one request you'll live to regret. Therefore, yes, you may marry her with my blessing. Perhaps the last laugh was on our late Majesty. And as I've told you, she had a wicked sense of humour. Anyway, here comes the rain again. So, I mean, I just can't get on with anything outside. I think today's project is going to be carrying on with the spiral staircase, if my sanding discs have arrived. So before I was using sandpaper and trying to wear down each pole by hand to fit into the metal housing. I've given up on that because it just hurts my hands so much. So I'm going to use an electric sander to trim them down. And I've got 2 curtain poles because the broom handles, they only go up to 120 centimetres and the top 2 steps are 140 and 170. So I bought wooden curtain poles for the 2 top steps. So hopefully I'll get that done today. I've done some window tint on those windows, but that middle one. I mean, look at this. There's got to be like a 9-10 foot drop from that window to the floor, and even the ladder. And then you're working like backwards, back breaking. So I just couldn't get the window tint up on that, or I'm just a bit too stiff and knackered at the moment. But anyway, I shall carry on with it. Yes, here we go. The rain, it's gonna do this all day long, and then that's it, finished for a few weeks. We hope. Hope you're all having a lovely day today. So if you want the royal family to come and visit you, now you know what to do. And shh, don't tell anybody about the Queen taking the piss out of Mrs. T. Thank you very much for listening.